Hello, I'm Otto, and welcome back to Dyson Sphere Program. So in the last episode, we created a new blueprint for our smelters. We've upgraded to the plain smelter, and the reason why we did that is because we wouldn't just be able to upgrade the old blueprints, as we wouldn't have enough materials coming in. The consumption would have been to the point where only half the blueprint would have been active, so we did create this new one. Once we beat the game, the old one can still be usable, as we will have stacked belts coming in, and that would then allow us to supply plain smelters as well as the negentropy smelters that are from the dark fog. So a lot of time has passed in between the last episode and this episode. I think something like 4 to 4.5 hours has passed, and that's largely because, well, I have been filling out this planet with smelters. Well, not just smelters, but I have a few assembling machine blueprints as well, just some of the basic stuff like magnetic rings, the gears, electric engines, a few things here and there. So, I've also been tapping planets in the local cluster. Look at all those vessels. This game is awesome. So I've tapped several extra star systems in the area, largely for the resources that are needed and mostly because of iron. I started using the production tab to kind of go through some of the more complicated stuff. Let's look at the entire star cluster. So I started with some of the more complicated stuff, and as you can see, there are some things that I am not capable of producing what we are capable of consuming, and that's perfectly fine. But for the most part, a lot of the items do either surpass what we are capable of consuming or come pretty close. The more expensive ones, I've been a little bit more, just don't quite really need that much. Oh, I could use some more water. I just noticed that. Anyways, but some of the cheaper stuff, I have certainly been adding in, like with the gears here, I've certainly been adding in more than we actually need. And this is largely just a preference because whenever I turn things on, I want these things to go full out. Iron has been a significant portion of that, as we are using well more than double the amount of iron than anything else. And in the case of iron ore, because this also is used for the magnets, as you can see, our total consumption potential for iron ore is more than triple everything else. Now, in no world will this ever be like fully up and running. We won't need, for instance, all these diamonds going at the same time. You can see that what we are currently producing versus consuming is, let's say, a third of what's here. And a lot of these are nowhere near what we actually can produce or can consume. A lot of this is kind of, once we turn the science on, that'll get going. Anyways, enough of that. So I've had a little bit of a growing problem while doing this, and that is largely to do with the dark fog. I know I kind of hinted that we were going to deal with like solar sails in this episode, but I do kind of want to solve the dark fog problem first. So we've also reached a little bit of a milestone. We are now at level 24 and 25 for the bases that we are directly assaulting, and that is kind of the max of what you can start collecting. So one thing that has been happening is I have been getting more frequent messages that the dark fog has destroyed a building. I'm sure some of those will pop up during the recording here. But something that I want to do is I want to take one last pass on the dark fog farms, because we could technically beat the game using just the dark fog, and they have some more valuable supplies for us that we have not tapped into at all. But once you reach level 24, that is certainly something that's going to happen. So I want to upgrade to the next level of, not the next, but the final level of the implosion cannon damage. So we do need to go ahead and activate or research the rank 2, and then we need to get through this, obviously, to get to this. And we're going to have to bring in quite a few items. So we obviously need the original implosion cannon, we need the rank 2, and we need to get to the rank 3, and that involves using some of the combustible units from things that we've already kind of unlocked. Now, I'm going to make a full build out of most of this. There are a few things that I'm just going to kind of rely on. One is going to be the combustible units at the base and also the shell set. So we're already making these. We already have a build for those. Yeah, so we're going to go back to our home planet. Another thing that this is going to do is if you're kind of late to the game and you aren't farming the dark fog, what we're going to be doing, changing to the crystal set, is going to actually increase the speed at which you level the dark fog. So, oh, I don't want to miss it. Nope.
Warp engine deactivated. Cruise ended.
Okay, so we are going to make a little bit of an area over here by our mall. Actually, this is the area here. I believe I also added in smelter power here as well. Yeah, I did add this in. So, obviously I have some blank spaces where our smelters used to be. There are some that I'm still trying to get through. Not a lot uses stone brick. I'm kind of surprised, but like I didn't actually realize that. Anyways, there is some, there are a few things that we can still remove. Not much. I think that might actually be the last one. And then we obviously have a little bit of extra room. There you go. Building destroyed. Usually a couple will be destroyed at the same time because the signal tower is what's destroyed, and that's kind of like your tank, right? It's absorbing all the damage. Anyways, so we need to get rid of this.
Building destroyed.
Rip oil. That's fine. Okay, so we need to flatten a fairly large area. I have run out of foundations. We need to flatten a decently sized area over here. And we're going to end up using this section, the outer equatorial band up here, largely because I don't really have, like, the build is going to be a little bit bigger than what we can fit in, let's say, a normal slot over here. It's not going to quite fill up this entire space, but it's going to come, it's a little bit bigger, let's just put it that way. So before we even get into that, I want to talk a little bit more about ratios. So we have access to the quantum chemical plants. We also have access to the recomposing assembler. So that is the kind of fourth rank of assembler. You can see that it is obviously missing here, and that's because the dark fog items are all under this section over here with the Cosmos section. So the upgraded labs, the upgraded assembling machine, and the upgraded smelters are all in this area. We haven't unlocked those largely because you're not really going to be feeding those before you beat the game, so it's kind of pointless to get those at this moment. There are a few more things that we could be doing though. One is some of the upgrades. So one of the items that we're going to be chasing, we actually can't start collecting it until we unlock this, which is the next level of our fuel source. So let's go ahead and unlock this. This is going to allow, and again, we haven't talked too much about Dyson sphere type stuff or the ray receivers or, solar sails. We're going to get to that. But for now, we're going to unlock this. This will allow us to use graviton lenses to increase the power output of our ray receivers. Again, that's not going to make a lot of sense now, but it will in the future. Then this, which takes the energy that is brought into the Dyson sphere, and you can either convert it into usable energy, or you can use it to convert into the critical photons, which you can see down there, and that is converted from... takes the critical photon and converts it into hydrogen and antimatter. So we're going to queue that up. And then this is the antimatter fuel rod, which uses both the hydrogen and the antimatter, along with the annihilation constraint sphere here. and converts it into a usable fuel source. So once we unlock those, we will have an additional item that pops up, which is going to be the last item that we could potentially collect from the dark fog, which would be here, but currently is not. And we did kind of have filters for it. I think that they're... whatever. It'll eventually show up. We will have to research... Actually, we won't have to research anything at the moment. It'll just start dropping. We're also going to go over to the dark fog farm and change a few of the filters. So let's talk a little bit about ratios. So ratios are going to become a little bit more of a problem now that we have... Oh, I turned my bots off recently. So what I mean is this one is creating it ×3, and the chemical plant, the quantum chemical plant, is creating it ×2. So if we take a look at some of the recipes that we might need, so the explosive unit and the crystal explosive unit. For this one, we can look at the rank 2 and rank 3. High explosive shell set and crystal shell set. Actually, we might as well just do the rank 1s as well. So let's take a look at these. This one is actually done through an assembling machine. There and there. So we're not going to include these two. We're going to rely a lot on what we've already been creating for both the combustible units and the shell sets. But we can look at the assembling process. So if you recall from looking at the combustible unit before, the recipe that you see down here, it creates 1 in 3 seconds and then uses 1 coal per second in 3 seconds. So 3 coal in 3 seconds is 1 per second. This does not factor in the craft speed of the machine. So this would, and there's a couple of different ways that you could go about looking at this. Technically, if you're saying that it's crafting 3 times faster, then what this would look like is now this is creating 1 every 1 second and needs 3 coal every 1 second. You could also kind of multiply the quantities and say that this is creating 3 every 3 seconds. So using the current time frame of the recipe, or 9 every 3 seconds. When we're looking at these ratios, this is becoming... Like, this can become a lot more of a problem because it doesn't show you the actual crafted amount down here. It's only showing you the base recipe cost. So when you're using like a ×1 modifier, this one is ×2 modifier, this one's ×3 modifier, it can be a little confusing. So there is a website that I'm going to show in a few seconds that can help us out with that. And the website is Factorio... Oh geez, what's it called? Factorio Lab. So that is something that I have used for years, and we're going to use that and kind of see like what kind of ratios we might be able to figure out using this website. Alright, so looking at Factorio Lab, so this website was obviously created for Factorio, but it has multiple different games in here. So as a matter of fact, if you are looking for a different kind of factory game, this has a decent list of things, some of which I haven't heard of, like Factor Y. I have no idea what that is. I've heard of most of these other games. Outer World Station, I don't know what that is either, but everything else I've heard of. So we're going to go to Dyson Sphere, and we're just going to add in items. So we're going to add in the crystal shell set here. And this might be a little confusing, but it's okay. We're going to work through this. I'm not really too concerned with the smelters, but if you want, you can go ahead and add in the machines that we're going to be using. So we're going to be using the recomposing assembler, or we at least have access to it, and the quantum chemical plant. So these are going to be adjusted. So there's that. We also have Mark III conveyor belt, and that's just going to allow us to kind of build like a solid, like how many machines do we need? How many of what do we need? So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually swap from units per minute to units per second. So I'm going to do 2 per second. And what that'll do is it'll show us everything, literally everything that we might need to get to 2 per second. I actually think that like we can actually make this a little bit better. So we're going to do 4 per second. So that's going to give us a large total of what we need. Now, the items that we're going to be bringing in, like we're not going to be making the titanium crystals from scratch and then graphene from scratch and casimir crystals. So there are some things that we can actually cut out. So we're going to hover over some of these. So we have casimir crystals, so I can remove that. Crystal silicon we have. The shell sets we have. Titanium alloy we have. Titanium we have. Plastic is good. Combustible units is good. Yeah, sure. I'm not too concerned with all the materials. I'm concerned with what we actually have to make. So now we're down to the, oh, what was it called? High explosive, whatever that was called. No, explosive unit. This was the high explosive. High explosive shell set. We have the crystal explosive unit and the crystal shell set. So yes, it does show that we have casimir crystals coming in, the crystal silicon coming in. So this does show all the ingredients, but it kind of hides them. And this gets us down to the actual machines. So as far as quantum chemical plants go, we need 24 quantum chemical plants just to make the explosive units. We need another 12 of the quantum chemical plants making the crystal explosive units. So half of the chemical plants for the explosive unit is going to go into the crystal explosive unit, and then the other half, the other 12, are going to go into these because this uses the explosive unit as an ingredient. So the explosive unit is used in this and this for its ingredients. So half will go into this, half will go into this. All of these will go into this, and then this will bring in some other items. So we're going to be making these on site, which will go into this. We're going to make these on site, which will go into this, and then the titanium alloy can come in by itself. So that is kind of what we're looking at. We need a total of 36 quantum chemical plants, and we need a total of 12 of the recomposing assembler. Alright, so we're back in the game, and we need to kind of figure out how we're going to set a lot of this up. Obviously, we don't need these, but we need 24 of this, 12 of this, and then 4 of these and 8 of these. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place an ILS, and that is going to go on the same plane as this. So this is where we are aiming. And we're going to have a lot of materials coming in. So the way that we're going to solve that is we're going to bring in most of the base materials here. Let's go ahead and just set this up real quick. I totally should have left these. Let's just do that, and real quick with this one. Okay, so for the materials that we're going to need coming in, we're going to need combustible units, plastic, sulfur for this, and then we're also going to need casimir crystals and crystal silicon. So that is going to cover all of these. So let's go ahead and add that in. So we need the combustible units. We need, what did I say? Plastic, sulfur, sulfuric acid, and then we need casimir crystals and crystal silicon, which is here. So we need all of these. And a good rule of thumb is if you have any significant amount of travel time, then you want to have them higher than normal. So for instance, the sulfuric acid, maybe we set that to 5,000. Casimir crystals are produced here, which is going to be through an assembling machine build. So that can be low enough. That can be like 500 or let's say 1,000. The crystal silicon is also produced here. So we can do 1,000 for that one. Plastic is produced here. Let's say 1,000. Combustible units. All right. So how are we going to deal with the other materials? Because this covers everything with the chemical plants, but we also have to bring in shell sets. We have to bring in titanium ingots. This is going to be produced on site. So that's 2 items being brought in here. for this, we need titanium alloy coming in, so that's 3 items. But then I would also like to proliferate the items, and we're also going to need some whatchamacallit, the space warpers. Now we could just bring in, I feel like I'm missing something. What am I missing? 1, 2, 3. Oh, and then this needs an outgoing spot. I was like, okay, I don't think that everything was lined up right. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, because we do need an export slot. And then that leaves us 1 spot for either space warpers or proliferators. So we're going to have to deal with that at some point. Okay. The way that we're going to end up solving that problem is we're going to be bringing in some extra items with another ILS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put this as close to the, well, not quite, but yeah, let's do exactly as, no, we're going to go right there. We can always move this, like this is, we're just going to be using it as a kind of reference point for now. And yeah, move it if we need to. Okay, so we're going to have some belts coming out. We're going to have Casimir crystals coming through here, and let's just go ahead and bump that all the way back. I'm not requesting in anything yet because I don't want to have to redo anything if I make a mistake. And then crystal silicon. So this is going to make our the final version of the explosive item. So we're going to take 6 of these, and we're going to space these out because if we were to do this at a higher level, so let's say that we go all the way out to here, these are going to be more spaced. So we want to make sure that we can fit 6 into this section. So I'm going to tab, 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 and that'll have these line up exactly exactly the way that we need. And then everything else can be lined up based on the position there. All right, so this is going to be the crystal explosive unit. Let's get rid of the signal so that we can, oh, there we go. No more blinking. There we go. All right, so this is going to be bringing in these 2 items, which is everything we need except for the explosive units. So the explosive unit we are also going to bring in or create on site, and half of them are going to go into these, and half of them are going to go down and make the next item. So I also need an output for the crystal explosive, so we're going to leave a little bit of a gap here.
Mineral.
1 single space. That is not a single space. There we go. Tab, tab, tab. So that is how we're... Why did you... I did not want you to copy that recipe, but thanks. Okay, and then obviously we need 24 of these, or let's say 12 and 12. So I'm going to leave space for the 3 ingredients that this one needs. So let's not put that there. 1, 2, 3. And then tab, tab, tab. That's going to be like that. And we're going to do the same thing over here. So this one needs 1 space in between. Make sure that's lined up right. And then we need 3 spaces for belts in between, and then this can be placed like that. Okay, so we have incoming belts for these, so let's go ahead and add in. That is going in there, that is going in there, that is going to there, and that is going to there. If we have a situation where these sorters are not enough to kind of sustain what is needed with this or for the assembling machines that we're going to be placing, then we can always upgrade these to pile sorters. Pile sorters are fantastic, but they do have excessive UPS consumption. Okay, so we need an output for... well, let's do this too. We're going to be direct inserting, and I'm not a fan of direct insertion, but we're going to be doing it in this case. So explosive units are going direct insert into the crystal sets. And then we also need a belt for the output of these items. And this will continue on because we are going to be using some assembling machines later on with this as an ingredient. So that is incoming for these. Outgoing is going to be here. Like that. And so that's going to cover this one. Now for the explosive unit, we have 3 ingredients coming in, so we can have 3 belts of items coming out, coming in through here. So that is 1, 2, and 3. And these will all only go as far as the chemical plants. So we're gonna just go a little bit farther back so we can make sure to have enough space to bring in everything. And we're going to kind of like alternate some of the belts. So if this has an input on the first belt, then this one needs to have an input on the second belt. And then this one can be the second belt, and this one would be the first belt, and then the third belts will stretch over. Thankfully, the chemical plants have 4 slots to insert from, so it kind of seems like this was a little bit planned. So the output of this one will go directly into this one, and the output of these will need to go on a belt. So this is going to go back to here. All right, now it just needs to be duplicated onto the other side. This is direct insert into here. This is coming out onto this belt. This is in from the first belt, in from the second, in from the second, in from the first, and third belt out, and third belt out, with a belt coming out from there.
Flight mode.
I do not remember. I assume that I did an output, but I was not sure. Okay, and then from there, these can just be copied and pasted onto the other belt, or the other chemical plants. Why did... Oh no. Alright, well, easy fix. There we go. Okay, so that covers the chemical stuff. Now we need to do some assembling machine stuff. So we're going to let this belt run through. This is going to end up being our for the crystal shell set. Wow, try saying that 10 times fast. All right, so we're going to have 2 assembling machines. One is going to be right up against this chemical plant. This is going to be for the high explosive shell sets, and this is going to let's see, we're going to need... So this is going to be outputting the crystal shell set. That is going to need some titanium alloy. So we're going to need to kind of solve this first, and you'll see why. We're actually going to take the shells, the titanium alloy, and come in from here. And we kind of needed to place that first because we're going to be using the space in here for these two guys. So I want this to be, what did these need? These needed titanium and the shell set. So let's get shell set there, and what did I say? Titanium? Shell set, and you're not going to let me do this easily, are you? Titanium, and cross that over. And that is as far as this is going to go. So this is going to insert here,
Mineral
this one
depleted.
here, and then cross over and cross over. These might have a little bit of a hard time staying supplied, so we might have to upgrade these. We can check on that at a later point. These also need these guys, so let's bring this
Building
in,
destroyed.
and we're going to tuck that in as tight as we can. So there's going to be an input there, and then these will need an output, so we're going to have them output onto a belt here. We are also going to try to conserve as much space as we can. So this is going to be on the back side, whereas this one kind of has to be on the front side. All right, and then we can just duplicate that on the other side. So we need titanium alloy. That did not line up right because the grid is slightly different. That's fine. We'll just try to mimic whatever we had on the other side. Mirror that side. So that is 2 spaces in between this. This is shell set. This is titanium. And then these need an output here. And we're going to set this one back. Whew, okay. So I believe that covers all of the ingredients. This line here is for the titanium alloy. Oh, let's set these up to that and that. So now we're going to need 4. Let's start up here because this is going to be a little bit tighter. That's 4, and then we can try to line this up. Tab, 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 I believe should work. And there we go. That's better. Okay, so this needed the high explosive set, which is coming from this line here. It needed the alloy, which is coming from this line, and it needed the explosive, which is coming from this line. Now, I have put these on the back side, and the reason why is because I would like to proliferate these as well. So let's get our proliferator out, and we can have, let's say, the proliferator coming in. It doesn't really matter which direction we want. Let's do that. So that is going to cover all of the inputs. And then make sure that we have this on the same plane. And then I'm going to want to proliferate the outputs as well. So we proliferated the output for the crystal or the shell sets. Oh, and that's kind of something we're going to have to deal with. Like, these are all going to be proliferated, and it's either don't proliferate them or just accept it. And I think in this situation, I'm just going to accept it, and we're going to see why shortly. Okay, so I kind of want all of these to merge into one and then have one lane be proliferated. So I want to have, let's say, a proliferated lane here. And that is not going to be able to go this way, so that's going to have to go like that. And then all these belts are going to have to, they're going to have to output, but then converge at the same time. So we're actually going to do some funky stuff. We're going to have these converge here. These converge here. And then because I also want to have a little bit of symmetry and not have to do some weird things with power poles, because power is going to be a little bit of an issue in here. Oh, we did not add power poles to this side. That's fine. We will deal with that in a second. We're just gonna remove some of these belts, and then we're just gonna have them merge into this section here. We can use one of, I don't think I've made any. I think I didn't set this up or something. Where did I put those with my power poles? Here it is. Yeah, I did not make any of these. Why did I not make any of these? That does not have incoming items. These are not requesting in. One. There we go. Okay, so we're going to use that.
Flight mode. Mineral depleted.
Boom, right there. Okay, so that'll cover the power, and then for the proliferator, let's just, so we're going to bring that in via logistics drones. So we can convert this. We'll just do the straight. There's not really a better place for this, so we're just going to do it like that. Give it a chest. Reduce this to 1 stack. Give this a logistics distributor. Bots, we're going to be requesting in Proliferator Mark III. So now we can use a belt. We're going to hit up and go into that one. And go, why did it dodge that one? Hold on. Right, so let's just do one of these at a time. You can see whenever it's lit up, that would show that it is going to go through them. Normally it's a non-issue, but we can also make sure that this is actually going to work. And I want to set the proliferator up first, like that's kind of important. All right, so while we're waiting on that, we can output this onto here. Do the same here. Oh, these did not receive any inputs. I think I totally made that different. I did. That's fine. We didn't need that. I didn't set up any of these either. That's fine. We'll just manually set it up because the sorters for the rest of it is kind of a pain when you're trying to like shift, and yeah, we're not worried about it. Alright, so I think that covers inputs and outputs for all of this. The only thing we have left is to kind of hook it up. Let's look at these. These are all filled up, so this is all good to go. And we also need some warpers, so we do have 1 extra slot. We're going to use this for the warpers. That is going to be locally requested in. And we also want some warpers for this, because you never know, like, yeah, we need sulfuric acid. You never know, like, where you might be making some of this. So we're going to be dragging a belt right through the middle. That is going to be these space warpers feeding into this guy. We also did the space warpers here for this purpose rather than the proliferator, because both of these could have been brought in via logistics bots. But because we wanted to feed warpers over here, and this one didn't need proliferators, that's why we did the space warpers in from this. Okay, so now we need power in here, and this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to add one in. I probably didn't need to do that. And this one is not going to be symmetrical. It kind of is what it is. I prefer symmetry, but it is maybe not as important. Wait a minute. Oh, maybe we are going to have some symmetry. Oh well, it is what it is. That is going to be good enough. Alright, so that is going to be our new build. Let's turn it on and make sure that it is actually working. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit so that we can move this along, because we're going to need some of this, and we're going to need to do some stuff with the dark fog area as well. So yeah, I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. Oh, I guess I could mention this is coming from other places, so we don't have any being crafted here. So since we have some extra travel time, let's increase the quantity for that. Same goes for this guy. Let's just do 5,000 of each. Oh, one last... Okay, sorry. Wow. One last thing that I want to mention is we don't really have enough of the combustible units, the base combustible units, to really supply this thing. I didn't look at it in the Factorio lab, but what we have over here, this is definitely not going to be enough. So, hello. Bring me more, please. Thank you. So we're going to upgrade these to this, and even this is probably still not enough. So we're going to, and I don't really like doing this, but this build has largely become obsolete. So I'm going to lower this. We're going to convert our shell sets in the dark fog farm. And I'm going to actually upgrade these as well. And the reason why is because we can also use these. So since the shell sets here are kind of largely like unnecessary and we just need to be making a little bit, we're going to use the extra combustible units that we are inevitably going to have. And I don't like doing this because it's kind of bad. I don't know. I've seen a lot of content creators use other builds so that you'll have like a situation where you might use a proliferator, let's say. You might have proliferator coming in via like logistics bots, and then the proliferator will stretch across multiple builds. I'm not a fan of doing that. I think each build should stand on its own. But you know what? We do need some of the some extra of these, and I'm not going to create a whole extra build for them. So yeah. Also, these are proliferated. That's just kind of is what it is. A little bit of a waste, but whatever. I am not too terribly concerned. Okay, so now that we have that set up, let's just quickly make sure that this is actually working. We are not producing anything. What are we doing? We don't have any of these. Shell sets are not being requested in. Why not? Alright, so that should be problem solved. All this is working. This is all building up. These are going to start stacking up, which is fine. It is what it is. There we go. We have short on these. This is fine. This cannot bring in the titanium fast enough. There you go. Let's upgrade this to pile sorters. And we're probably going to have to do the same thing for the other side. So whichever one is bringing in titanium is going to have to be upgraded. It is what it is. Okay, and all of these should be fine. I don't think there's going to be a situation where these need any more than what the Mark III can bring in. Alright, so that is good and working. Okay, so we're going to go to the Dark Fog Farm on our combat. I know this episode is a little bit longer, but it is what it is. We're going to go over there and we're going to convert a few things just so we can start collecting some items.
Mineral depleted.
Oh, and did we unlock this? We did. So now that we have unlocked the antimatter fuel rod, we now have access to the final Dark Fog items. So the first one was the assembling machine, the second one was the lab, then we had the negentropy smelter, and then finally we have the best form of fuel in the game, which we are going to be using very soon. We just have to collect some of the items for it, and for that we're going to need the Dark Fog Farm. So we're going to activate this. I believe I still have some of these. I do. Consume from inventory. Alright, so I'm going to head over to the Dark Fog Farm, and we're going to swap some things over. Okay, so as we come up on our Dark Fog Farm, we can see it is being pelted by the two things that we... Like, I did put these a little bit closer together. We did level the Dark Fog a little bit faster than I had intended. Let's remove this and disable you guys. So it looks like the corners over here are being pelted a little bit. Unfortunately, the position of where we place this is okay, well, it's pretty much right in the middle, so I'm not gonna finish saying what I just said, but there's a couple things we can do to kind of help support these a little bit. So we're going to add in another battlefield analysis station right here in the middle. Before we give it power, we're gonna just filter this for, let's say, water. I don't want to pick up anything, and yeah. So what is this going to do for us? It's going to give us a little bit of extra healing support. So now these construction drones will help to heal up our signal tower here on the corner. There they go. Okay. The battlefield analysis base is kind of like your healer, then the signal towers are like your tank, and the implosion cannons are your DPS. Alright, so before we really do much, I would like to convert what we have here into other stuff. So I'm going to reduce the quantities here, and we're going to tell this to stop bringing this in, and we're going to tell this to stop bringing this in. Come on. And this can be there. So why are we doing that? Well, the reason why is because we now have the ability to bring in different items. The core element is already being collected. We probably even have a few of them. Oh wow, we have a lot of them. Where did the building just get destroyed? Okay, we can beef this side up a little bit too. Bab is going down here. Let's do the same thing. Let's just filter it for water, make sure nothing else is going to get in there, and power that guy. Good job on the placement. Good job, Otto. There we go. Okay, so I have a lot of items that are collecting various things. That one I'm not too concerned with, I don't think. This one is collecting the particle containers, so I want this to stop and start collecting these three items. So the first one we're going to chase is the antimatter fuel rods. Nope. So I want to convert this to that. What? Oh, I need to set it here. All right. Antimatter fuel rod, which is here. This also needs to be converted. Well, I guess it doesn't have to be. And then this one here. So now they're going to start collecting them with the logistics bots. This one we are going to remove this and convert this into antimatter. And this is how the game can be completed without actually making a Dyson sphere or using any solar sails. The antimatter can be used for white science once that is unlocked. And then the last one, we're going to convert to this one here, the annihilation constraint sphere. So we can start to collect all of that. And there are some others on this corner that we can do that to as well, but I'll do that after. I'm not too concerned with it at the moment. These are, this is a little bit of a problem. Which one of these is going to get rid of? Let's add in, maybe science would help us get this in. Anyways, let's just go ahead and add this. I don't need to convert anything. This will just allow this to come in. I'm going to have to delete some of this. That's going to be painful. How much of this can I carry? Okay, so we have antimatter rods coming in. So we need the antimatter fuel rods here. We need antimatter and we need the annihilation constraint. Let's add these in here. So this is, let's say, antimatter there and annihilation constraint. So now those will be requesting in from the bots, from these over here. Let's just make sure that all of these are added. So we have that, we have that, we have that. Awesome. And I think I'm going to want some extra storage for this. This is filling up pretty fast, so I'm going to take some chests. And we'll just do the same thing that we did over there. So we're going to have this coming in, this coming out. This in, this out. Give it some awkward power, sure. Alright, last thing that we're going to do is we're going to start bringing in the shell sets. And once this gets lowered down, we're going to convert this into the crystal shell sets. Alright, so let's add in the crystal shell set. We're going to add 1,000 of these, and we're going to request this in. Let's get a second shipment in and then lower that back down. So now we need to make this the shell sets, or convert it from the shell set to the crystal shell set. The same goes with the other side. Now I'm just going to let this go. Now these are going to kind of mix together, and that's okay. Eventually the shell sets will kind of like filter through. These will consume all of them on this side, and they will slowly start to add in the crystal shell sets. Okay, so that is going to be it for me for this episode. I know it was a bit of a longer episode, but you know what? Sometimes it is what it is. So in the next episode, we're going to actually use some of these items. We're going to use the antimatter fuel rods to convert this into what will eventually be our newly acquired fuel source, which is going to be this. This is going to be exclusively for personal use for now. Eventually, we'll get to the point where we can farm up a lot of this other stuff. That might be out of, like, you know, outside of this guide. Like, this guide is largely going to be focusing on beating the game, and a lot of this has been completely unnecessary, but you know what? It's a little fun sometimes, so yeah. So we have that converted, and I might just take a new blueprint of all of this to kind of have like a late game dark fog farm that is converted into the crystal shell sets. Anyways, so in the next episode, we are going to use our third planet, which is the lava planet in, where is center of the universe? we are going to use our lava planet here to start building a Dyson sphere around our stars. So you can look forward to that in the near future. I should also mention too that we have the solar sails unlocked. This is a 2-ingredient assembling machine build, so I'm not going to really go over how to make that. We've converted many builds into the 2-ingredient builds, so this will be no exception. And then maybe the same goes with these as well. So we have Dyson sphere components, which are needed for the small carriers, so we can convert a 3-ingredient build into the Dyson sphere components and a 3-ingredient build into the small carrier rockets as well. Yeah, so we're going to deal with that in the next episode. I will see you then, and thanks for watching.